This is NBC Palm Springs. Breaking news.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Sarah Sanchez. Juno Lamont has the night off. We have a lot of new information about the Apple fire to get to tonight as it burns through wilderness. This is live video right now from our Agua Caliente, or not, this was live video from our Agua Caliente casino cam. We captured it in a time lapse from today. Once again, smoke pouring from the mountain ranges as the fire kicked up again. Winds remain a factor for firefighters on this Thursday, and still the fire has grown. Right now, more than 28,000 acres have burned. The fire stands at 30% contained. It's destroyed 4 homes and 8 other structures. A second injury has also been reported. Full containment is expected August 17th, and that's next Monday. Having said all that, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department posts on social media that Morongo Valley is now subject to an evacuation warning. This will give people extra time to evacuate, to prepare now as a precaution. These orders help people with livestock and pets. We've also learned the same warning is now issued for people living in Whitewater. This is a live look at Joey's Home Animal Rescue in Yucca Valley. They just got word that they're under a voluntary evacuation warning, but the owners say they're not taking any chances and they will be evacuating their stables, getting the horses to safety, and we're happy they are taking those extra precautions.
Just all of a sudden, we have 3 phones, and we had posted the numbers for people to call, and just all of a sudden they just started going crazy, and with people that had gotten the emergency warning notice and wanted to move their animals.
Compounding the problem for people living in or near the fire zone is the threat to their water source. We have live team coverage with Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett, who's tracking conditions in the Weather Center. But we begin with Olivia Sandusky. She is in Banning Heights with the very latest from the ground. Olivia.
Sarah, the fire may be up in the hills right now, but it came right here through the Banning Heights community, all the way up to their water company, and did cut off their supply. Of course, this is a time when that resource is extremely crucial.
From here, it just took off.
Julie Hutchinson surveys fire damage at the Banning Heights Mutual Water Company, a nonprofit that treats flume water for the local community.
This flume has been in place and in operation since 1909. Diversion structures that capture the water and put it into that cement line flume with the boards across it. It's a very pristine source of water, and it has supplied this community and about 30% of the city of Banning's water needs for over 100 years. So it's of great value to us.
As the Apple fire ripped through the hillside, it stopped the flow of water from the flume around 3 o'clock on Saturday. With the community's supply now cut off, they're relying on water from the city of Banning, which fills this large storage tank and is already up to 14 feet. But relying on backups isn't cheap.
By owning property here, you are an owner of this mutual company. So anytime the costs go up to either purchase water or to set generators or to run the wells, that is an added cost. It adds to the cost of things, and that's going to impact us all.
In a briefing at the command post this week, Congressman Ruiz discussed ways to help Banning Heights residents.
I'm currently working with the community and the private industries that are stakeholders in the federal government to come up with an agreement to repair the flume. Now there may be resources that we can pull together as a community to have water security for their livelihoods and for their personal health.
And members of the community say they hope an agreement is reached soon.
We've lost the primary and we've got some emergency backups. How long those will last is the question.
And this is one of the few areas here in Southern California that does rely on a flume system. Now, because that fire is still active, they haven't been able to assess the extent of the damage yet, but they hope to be able to do that in the coming weeks. Reporting live in Banning Heights, I'm Olivia Sandusky.
All right, thank you, Olivia. We're taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam. This one in Rancho Mirage, facing west. We're going to send things over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett, tracking conditions out there tonight. Mike.
So, you know, the more I've been thinking about it, we've had a week to process this fire. Nothing short of a miracle is happening right now. Here we are in early August, Southern California. This is supposed to be the time of year where we get monsoonal flow and offshore flow. We're not seeing either of those things right now, courtesy of a trough of low pressure. Powerful beautiful one up in the Pacific Northwest that continues to make its presence known along the California coast and keeps that flow onshore. It's done a couple of marvelous things for us. First of all, keeps our air relatively humid. Now, you're noticing it's not exactly humid like it would be if we had that monsoonal moisture coming up from the south there, but it's the cool maritime air that's pushing into the Inland Empire. Low clouds and fog were present again this morning. They will be again on Friday morning. It's not the miracle that's going to bring any moisture up into the mountains, but at least the air parcel over Southern California isn't a hot, dry, arid one. In fact, it wasn't really all that hot today as well. Temperatures wildly below average. We'll talk about that coming up in the full forecast. Meanwhile, take a look at live radar. Nothing happening. Just want to give you a quick update on some geography. We just saw Olivia Sandusky there in the Banning Pass. This is the area here, Cabazon and Banning, and the fire originated close here to Oak Glen, has been continuing to burn basically from the west to the east. Now, when we're talking about evacuations in the Morongo Valley, that's over here. This is how pervasive this fire has been. And of course, that smoke has been blowing literally from west to east and keeping most of it out of the Coachella Valley. Now, we are still under some air quality warnings here, but nothing as severe as we saw on Friday and Saturday when that smoke was coming around the corner and right through the Banning Pass, especially into Desert Hot Springs and out towards 29 Palms. We will continue to see that smoke be an issue out towards the Yucca Valley for about the next 5-6 days until they get some full containment there. Take a look at future winds. It's gusty out there, but as you notice, Olivia's hair wasn't blowing around as much as it was yesterday. Winds about 5 miles an hour less than they were on Wednesday, and we'll see that trend continue into Friday as well, but still fairly gusty out there. These are your sustained winds, and it looks like by the time we get to around 9 or 10 o'clock tonight, expecting most of those to get back into single digits. It'll still be breezy at the airport and towards Thousand Palms there, and then the later it gets, obviously the cooler it will become and the calmer it will become as well, expecting all those numbers to go into single digits once again, and that will allow relative humidity to rise back up to about that 40-45 degree level up in the mountains there, and that's some really, really good news. It's dry, but it's not as dry as it could be. Neighborhood weather right now is showing another August miracle. Temperatures ran 5 degrees below average today. Currently 101 at Palm Springs International. Sustained winds coming in that 20-mile-an-hour range, puts gusts up to about 25, possibly 30 miles an hour for the next hour or two, and humidity sitting at 10%. Again, dry, but not as bad as it could be. Take a look at the next 3 days, brought to you by Comfort Air. Another below average day on Friday, but then as we move towards the weekend, high pressure takes over again. It's going to put those temperatures slightly above average. The big question is what happens next? Big answer coming up.
We have some new video for you from a viewer of a helicopter airlifting water from a tank near Morongo Casino. A dramatic display of efforts by air crews doing their job to help ground crews. Fire crews are using every resource available to them right now, and of course we'll continue to have coverage throughout the evening on the Apple Fire. Our other big story tonight, a series of cases of missing people, 6 to be exact, all disappearing over a span of several months. All from the same general area. None of them are connected. The cases are based in our mountain communities and have drawn enough attention now that it's spilling over into the Coachella Valley. Kitty Alvarado is tracking the story. She's here in studio with what she found out. Kitty.
Well, these stories are absolutely devastating because these people are someone's entire world. We spoke with a mother and son of one of the missing. They're heartbroken and hopeful they will come home. We hope someone recognizes all 6 of these people so that they're all found safe. Roy Profogel, Lydia Abrams, Rosario Garcia, Melissa Lane, Vanessa Vlasic, and Jade Kemmer don't know each other, have no connection, but they do have one thing in common. They've all gone missing from the mountain communities above the Coachella Valley within the last 5 months. The last person reported missing by her family is 30-year-old Jade Kemmer. She was staying at the Bluebird Cottage Inn in Idlewild. Her mom, Debbie McGee, who lives in Ohio, says she met up with Jade to pick up her 10-year-old son in Hemet on July 22nd. They flew back to Ohio with the agreement Jade would drive home in her white Kia Optima soon after. No one has heard or seen her since. Her mom is worried sick.
Absolutely, it's out of character. She surely would have contacted me by now. I would give my life for her.
The Riverside County Sheriff's Department says these 6 missing persons cases aren't connected. On March 4th, Roy Profogel went hiking in the Pine Cove area. An intense 6-day search by mountain search and rescue teams was unsuccessful. On June 4th, 41-year-old Melissa Lane was reported missing from Idlewild by her mother. As of August 5th, she was declared officially missing. On June 7th, 65-year-old Lydia Abrams was reported missing. The Riverside Mountain Rescue Unit searched a ranch in the Apple Canyon area. She has not been found. 73-year-old Rosario Garcia was last seen on July 7th. It's believed she suffers from dementia. Her car, a gray 2016 Nissan Altima, was found abandoned near Mountain Center. A search and rescue team looked for her. No one has heard from her since. On July 31st, 26-year-old Vanessa Vlasic was reported missing. Her family believes she was in the Idlewild area. Meanwhile, back in Ohio, Debbie is holding out hope.
We're not going to judge you. We just want you home.
Especially for the sake of her daughter's 10-year-old son, Henley, who only knows Mommy hasn't called.
Mommy, come home. Like, you haven't called us for a while.
Heartbreaking. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department says they continue to search for these 6 missing people and urge anyone with information to contact their department or any law enforcement agency. We hope someone out there does recognize them, or maybe they see this themselves and contact their loved ones. I'm Kitty Alvarado.
All right, thank you, Kitty. And late today, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department releases video of a deadly deputy-involved shooting in Palm Desert 3 weeks ago. That was on June 22nd.
Stop right there! Put your hands up! Put your hands up! Hands up!
This incident happened off Boardwalk in Palm Desert. Deputies were responding to an alarm at a gun store and arrived to find a car smashed through the entrance of Coachella Valley Guns and Tackle. New security cam video shows 33-year-old Aaron Granado ramming his car into the store several times. Video from inside shows Granado with what appears to be a semi-automatic rifle, turned out to be plastic.
The weapon recovered at the scene was a highly realistic-looking pellet gun replica of a semi-automatic rifle. When we have a deputy-involved shooting, multiple investigations are automatically launched. In this incident, the Riverside County Sheriff's Department will handle the investigation of the original call, Mr. Granados' actions when he exited the gun store, and the deputy-involved shooting.
A statement from Sheriff Chad Bianco also says this remains an active investigation. Dozens of law enforcement officers representing several agencies conduct a pre-dawn sweep of Desert Highland Estate and Santiago Sunrise Village in Cathedral City with search warrants related to several shooting investigations, the most recent being a double homicide near Palm Vista and Granada Avenue last Friday. Officials say the warrants led to the confiscation of firearms, ammunition, and gang paraphernalia, and one arrest. And we're taking a live look now from the Palm Springs City Council meeting. The council is discussing in depth these shootings and the epidemic of gun violence the city has seen over the past few months. We'll have a full report on what was said at this meeting tonight. That's during our 11 o'clock broadcast, but this is live video. It's the second day of school for Palm Springs Unified School District. Teachers were able to train and learn the technology, but for some parents, the switch to online learning has been a bit of a struggle. Nico Payne spoke with families and the district to get some answers.
The first day of school looked a little different this year, with kids logging on instead of heading into the classroom. Some families couldn't even access the various online portals.
There is Clever, Seesaw, and then Prodigy. And all of them needed passcodes, and she couldn't even complete an assignment yesterday.
She told me that we're going to meet up in Google Meet. And I called my mom up to say that I don't know how to get into Google Meets because you need a code and stuff.
Palm Springs Unified School District is now offering tech depots for students and parents who are struggling with technology or faulty equipment.
Yesterday, we saw a huge demand at Desert Hot Springs High School, and we requested to have an additional tech depot today to support the need in the community.
At the tech depots, families can come and trade out technology they are having problems with, pick up hotspots, and even new chargers. Wagner, who admits she struggles with technology, hopes for more training opportunities for parents.
I did have a lot of issues, and I'm hoping that, the school realizes that, it's not just the teachers that needed the virtual learning during this time before the school started. It's also parents, too, because we're home with them.
Nico Payne, NBC Palm Springs.
And families are able to reach out to their child's school for technical support. We have email addresses. They're listed on our website, NBCPalmSprings.com. Just look for this story. Now the latest COVID-19 numbers for Riverside County and the Coachella Valley. 764 new cases were reported in the county. 186 of those were from the valley. There were 18 new deaths reported in the county, and 5 of those were from the Coachella Valley.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
Coming up after the break, as the pandemic drags on, we have a new update on the unemployment numbers released just today. Plus, a family thought they were getting a COVID-19 test, but that wasn't the case. Now one of them is in the ICU. We'll have that full story ahead. Now to a look at the unemployment numbers. Another 1.1 million people filed for unemployment benefits last week, marking 20 weeks in a row that jobless claims are over 1 million. Some college campuses are preparing to reopen for in-person learning, and a new study suggests they should test students every 2 days. Researchers say that could keep infections at a more controllable number. Researchers found if universities had indoor mask mandates and strict hand washing policies, less frequent testing could be adequate. The Texas Attorney General is suing a Houston area clinic, claiming it's not being honest when it comes to the type of coronavirus test it's offering. One Texas family thought they could trust their test results, but they later found out they were misled. Jacob Rascone has the story.
The sign was nearly impossible to miss. COVID-19 test results in 15 minutes.
We saw that sign.
Nancy Serrano says hundreds of people lined up for hours, week after week, to take advantage of that offer, including her brother-in-law.
That same afternoon, we asked him how he was doing. He said, "Thank God everything's fine. I tested negative." And he let his guard down.
But her brother-in-law only got much worse, and the whole family got sick.
He went to the hospital, and he tested positive for COVID. He did have COVID, and he's in intensive care now. He's been there for a week.
The problem, the Texas Attorney General says in a lawsuit against the clinic, is that the 15-minute test the clinic said could diagnose COVID-19 was actually just an antibody test.
That's a good service. I pay $80 for the test.
Carlos Vega says the test here was faster and cheaper than anywhere else. But he now realizes, he says, he was tricked. The antibody test doesn't tell you if you have it. No puede. It can't.
Oh.
It can't. It can only tell you if you've had it in the past. Si lo ha tenido ya.
Aha.
No answer at the door of Luis Alberto Cuan, who the state says ran the clinic, but was not actually a doctor.
That was Jacob Rascone reporting, and there is a high risk. There are many more Texans like the Serrano's brother-in-law who had or have COVID-19 and tested negative at Clinica Hispania, the suit says. In addition, Cuan is accused in the lawsuit of improperly disposing of sensitive patient information found intact in a dumpster behind the clinic. Well, we'll be right back after this. Mike has a look at our forecast. Mike?
For you, courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino Cam downtown, looking off towards the north and northwest. Still plenty of smoke out there. Wind is breezy but not gusty, but that's not the best part of our weather story. I'll share it with you when we come back. welcome back. Our Walter Clark 111 cam helping me to tell the weather story tonight. Couple things to observe here as we take a look outside. Trees not moving. That's some very good news for us. Now, you are seeing some winds very clearly blowing from west to east up above the mountains. And so for the 6th day in a row, we are tracking some pretty dense smoke that's making its way across the top of the San Bernardinos and out towards the Yucca Valley and 29 Palms. Air quality is still an issue there. But here in the Coachella Valley, we have been largely blessed. We had a lot of that smoke on Friday and Saturday. And then for the most part, it has just been making that beeline out towards the high desert there. We're perfectly okay with that. Here's what's interesting about today. It's early August. We live in a desert in Southern California. It's supposed to be hot and we're supposed to have monsoonal flow coming up, but this low pressure system here is so powerful that it's dragging a trough across the coastline here that has been taking temperatures down. You notice that today. I'll show you some numbers in a moment here, but also keeping monsoonal flow at bay. In fact, we haven't seen any monsoonal activity so far this season, and here we are well into August. First week of August almost behind us. Areas of fog in the early morning hours have been a blessing, unless of course you're driving in it, but what that means is that the parcel of air right around the immediate base of the fire there's Beaumont, has been moist. That's some really good news and not something that we normally see this time of year, so we'll take the blessing where we can get it. Of course, if you are planning on heading to the coast in the early morning hours, you will hit some of that low cloud cover and fog, especially in that 215 corridor near Paris and Menifee. Today's top story, 5 degrees below average. 107 is the 30-year average for this time of year. Back in 1994, we were 119. Last week, we were 119. That's why this is so extraordinary. 75 in the overnights put us 3 degrees below average as well, but nowhere near the record of 58 back in the 1930s. So here's what we're looking at as we go towards Friday. More of the same, slightly warmer, and those afternoon breezes, again, will be very similar to what we're seeing today. Breezy, not overly gusty, and that patchy morning fog near the coast there is going to keep them cool and then push into the Inland Empire yet once again. Here's what wind will do on Friday. And again, of course, Cabazon, the Banning Pass will pick up to about 25 miles an hour max. That's what we're expecting in the highest peaks of the mountains as well. So breezy, not gusty. And then the rest of us will see those standard afternoon winds in about the 15 to 20 mile an hour range, similar to what we're seeing today. Dew point humidity, not bad either. A bit on the dry side on Friday. 35 will be our dew point. Humidity will be about 10%. And then we'll get that up into the low 40s as we go into the weekend. Again, spectacular for this time of year. Currently 100 at Palm Springs International, 107 in Phoenix, 102 out towards Vegas, and cool along the coast. 75 in LA right now, 70 in San Diego. We've got 83 in Smoky in the Yucca Valley, 100 at the airport as we saw there, 103 in Coachella. It's already 68 up in Big Bear. That's extraordinary, and some mid-70s out towards Idlewild. Very efficient cooling tonight puts us in the upper 60s and lower 70s tomorrow, and then take today and add a degree or two to it. 105 in Palm Springs, 106 in Indio, and your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows plenty of comfort on the way. We do warm this weekend, but nothing extraordinary, and the thing that I'm really excited about, we keep those overnights in the 70s.
A Norwegian cruise line apologizes after a coronavirus outbreak on one of its ships. At least 4 passengers and 36 crew members tested positive when the ship docked in Norway. All 40 people were hospitalized. Major cruise lines are suspending trips abroad through October, and that includes Carnival, Disney, Norwegian, and Royal Caribbean. Southwest Airlines is cutting back on cabin cleaning procedures that were put in place because of the pandemic. Workers will no longer sanitize seatbelts, but will focus on things like tray tables and lavatories. It's all for time efficiency purposes. And while the planes are on the ground, deep overnight cleaning will continue. The National Park System is in desperate need of repair. There are over 400 parks, historic buildings, and landscapes that need a little love. Congress overwhelmingly approved the Great Outdoors Act that will pump over $6 billion into much needed maintenance. And President Trump has now signed that bill into law. Mark Barger reports.
America's parks are getting a much-needed facelift.
Hundreds of millions of travelers visit these parks each year, and the fact is that some of them are over 100 years old.
We want to make sure they're accessible for people now and for generations to come.
Most years, more than 300 million people visit the 419 national park sites, which span 84 million acres. But many of those parks are crumbling. A $12 billion backlog of repairs. The recently passed Great American Outdoors Act will address more than half that amount.
This would be the biggest investment in our parks and public lands since World War II.
This is really a monumental win for our national park system.
Travel expert Janine Tornatore says aside from the obvious beauty of places like the Grand Canyon, Yosemite, or the Grand Tetons, there's a bigger takeaway from visiting.
Simply the recognition of the conservation that's needed within our country.
Maintaining the parks is critical not only for the wildlife and the ecosystem, but for the communities surrounding many of these national treasures.
Taking care of our parks ensures that those 300 plus million visitors to the parks are going to continue coming. And when that happens, they are spending dollars in local communities,
allowing a revitalized park system to generate even more than just beautiful memories. Mark Barger, NBC News.
Coming up after the break, it's been almost a week since the extra unemployment benefits expired. We'll have the latest on congressional negotiations. And then our NRA may be disbanded. Yeah, there's some serious new allegations levied against the National Rifle Association. We'll explain after this. Live look now from banning. A lot of new information about the Apple fire as it burns through wilderness tonight. First, we begin with video from our Agua Caliente casino cam in Rancho Mirage earlier today. Once again, smoke pouring from the mountain ranges as the fire kicked up Once again, winds remain a factor for firefighters tonight. And still, the fire has grown. Right now, more than 28,000 acres have burned. The fire stands at 30% contained. It's destroyed 4 homes and 8 other structures. A second injury has also been reported. Full containment is expected August 17th, and that's not until next Monday. Well, let's send things over now to Olivia Sandusky. She is in Banning Heights with a live update for us from the ground. Olivia.
Sarah, we have seen some new evacuation warnings in place, Morongo Valley and Whitewater, because as we can see here from Banning Heights, still a lot of activity out there. We've had quite a show from this angle, watching the DC-10, the Boeing 747 aircrafts as they dropped retardant across this hillside. It's been quite a dramatic scene out here, still only 30% contained. But today, fire crews say they are making good progress. They are building a containment line around the perimeter, trying to slow the spread there. Now, one concern today, as we've kind of seen out here in Banning Heights, it's pretty gusty. They say fire spotting with those wind gusts is something that they may see throughout the day, but it is a little cooler, which is good news for the crews out here. Over in Riverside County, those road closures have been lifted. Now, the Beaumont Red Cross has also closed out here. They say if you're in need of any resources, the best thing you can do is just call the Red Cross directly as well. Now, we are out here in Banning Heights, where their primary water source was cut off this week. They've been working with the city of Banning to get the resources they need, because it is a hot week out here to keep the community safe. That has been what's been in effect out here in Banning Heights. Sarah.
All right. Thank you, Olivia, for that live report. We're taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente casino cam in Rancho Mirage. This one facing towards the west, so you can see all that smoke out towards the west of the valley. We're going to send things over to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. He's got a look at the numbers. Mike.
Sarah, once again, as I continue to process this, it's been about a week now that we've been tracking this fire. Started Friday, yeah, so we've been looking at that smoke now for close to 7 days. And what we're seeing there is nothing short of a miracle. You remember that we're in the summer. It's August. We're supposed to be seeing monsoonal flow coming up from the south there, and many times high pressure builds across the region that will take that flow offshore and really warm us up and dry us out. In fact, we've got the exact opposite going on right now. A trough of low pressure is just making its way across Southern California as we speak. You may have noticed temperatures considerably cooler today than even yesterday. We're going to carry that trend into Friday as well, but it does a couple things. Raises relative humidity. That is spectacular, especially in the Inland Empire, where we've been seeing that low cloud cover and fog for the last few days there. Just want to show you nothing happening on radar right now, and as I push the magic button, no watches or warnings. That's some especially good news. Olivia was just mentioning the wind out there, fairly typical for this time of year, gusting up to about 20-25 miles an hour, and even that's less than it has been through most of the week. Smoke has been blowing literally from the west to the east here, so in contrast to what we saw on Friday and Saturday, where a lot of that smoke was coming around the corner and down into the Coachella Valley, now it's just going straight west to east there. So as we zoom in and we take a closer look there, there's Banning, there's Desert Hot Springs, there's 29 Palms. We continue to see all of that smoke making its way across the Yucca Valley. By the way, the areas that we're looking at for evacuation out towards the Morongo Valley are over here, which is extraordinary when you consider that the fire started here. This is how much it's burnt so far. We're continuing to keep a close eye on that. Current winds right now sitting sustained at about 15 to 20 miles an hour. Palm Springs International. Gusts have got up to about 25, 30 there. They will continue to stay in that 25 to 30 mile an hour range through the rest of the evening in the passes. And then right around 8, 9 o'clock tonight, as the atmosphere gets a chance to cool, we'll see a lot of those winds start to back off and go into single digits overnight. I made a little fire forecast for you that shows you what things look like exactly in that area in the San Bernardinos. We're seeing minimum humidity that'll get down between about 10 and 15% tonight, and that depends on what side of the mountains that you're on. The west-facing mountains are going to see a humidity recovery up to about 45% tonight. That's some very good news. Recovery up to about 25% on the desert side of the slopes there. Isolated gusts on Friday will get up to about 25 miles an hour. Once again, very similar to what we saw today. And then temperatures for the firefighters, not bad either, between about 75 and 85 degrees below 6,000 feet. And then above 6,000 feet, those temperatures will be in the 70 to 80 degree range there as well. So not cool, but but not hot either. Speaking of which, neighborhood weather right now has us currently right at the centennial mark of Palm Springs International. Again, extraordinary for this time of day, this time of year. Sustained winds there sitting about 15 to 20 miles an hour and humidity sitting at 10%. Not too dry, not too humid. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air shows another delightfully below average day on Friday. And if you're an early riser, you're going to be treated to some temperatures that will be in the low 70s. Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see a recovery that takes us back up slightly above average. Remember, 107 is the 30-year average for this time of year. So we'll be warm this weekend, but we're going to do everything we can to keep those temperatures in the 70s overnight. We'll take a look at your 7-day forecast and a closer look at your weekend coming up.
Thank you, Mike. A group of teens is behind bars after trespassing on the grounds of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. Police say the three 15-year-old boys illegally entered the grounds while armed with an AK-47 in a backpack. Now, according to the Palm Beach Police Department, officers were chasing a car with the teens when they hopped out and ran toward the property. Police say the teens didn't realize they had entered the Mar-a-Lago grounds. And when asked about where they got the AK-47, one of them said he, quote, found it. The New York Attorney General is moving to dissolve the National Rifle Association. She says NRA executives funneled millions of dollars into their own pockets and paid off family, friends, and favored vendors and violated tax laws by falsely claiming nonprofit status. The NRA president calls the lawsuit baseless, premeditated attack on the group, and she says the filing is politically motivated. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has tested positive for coronavirus. Now, he doesn't have symptoms. The coronavirus test is part of a standard protocol to meet with President Trump. He was supposed to greet the president at his arrival in Cleveland today, and he's the second governor now to test positive for coronavirus. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt, who tested positive for the virus back in mid-July. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says the Senate will not adjourn today for its scheduled August recess as negotiations continue on a coronavirus aid package. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has rejected the possibility of a short-term extension of federal jobless benefits. She's demanding Congress approve a large-scale stimulus package the White House has so far rejected. With the price hikes many are seeing right now at the grocery store, paying for the essentials is getting more expensive as more Americans go hungry. Stephanie Rule reports on what's driving it all.
Grocery store prices have been rising for months. In the last few months, have you noticed a change in grocery prices?
Immensely. They've risen quite a bit.
I definitely have to pick what we absolutely need instead of kind of what we want.
Meat and veal jumped more than 20% between March and June. Poultry and eggs up more than 7%. Fresh vegetables and cereal also rising more than 3%.
Meat and eggs, two things almost every family out there eats a lot of. Why are they seeing the biggest increase?
They are very large industries that rely on workers. And as a result of the COVID-19 infections, that they had issues with keeping people on the line.
It's also because of supply and demand. Early on, COVID-19 shut down meat plants, causing supply constraints. People are also eating out less, which means buying more for meals at home. But it takes time and money for manufacturers to adjust the packaging to be sold to grocery stores.
The food that is distributed to restaurants are packaged differently. They're usually packaged in huge lots. There are different cuts of meat than what you and I are used to in the grocery store.
But the spiking prices means many families can't afford to get the food they need. More than 29 million Americans said they didn't have enough to eat at some point in July. Food banks across the U.S. since are overwhelmed. Nearly 2 billion meals were distributed between March and June to families in need.
There's anonymity, and there's basically the ability to just walk up, grab food, and leave.
That was Stephanie Rule reporting. The U.S. is offering a reward of up to $10 million to prevent the presidential election from being hacked. A Senate Intelligence Committee report found Russia engaged in efforts to influence the outcome of the 2016 election with the aim of helping President Trump win. With the next presidential election only months away, the State Department wants to prevent similar efforts this year. The future of fall college sports is in jeopardy. We'll have the latest developments on how the pandemic is affecting this upcoming season.
Welcome back now for a check on your NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. Worrying signs now for fans of college athletics. We were telling you yesterday about that. The University of Connecticut became the first school at college football's highest level to cancel its entire season because of the pandemic. Meanwhile, a decision was made to cancel the championships for all NCAA Division II and III fall sports. NBC's Stephanie Gosk reports.
It may already be game over for college sports this fall. UConn is now the first major school to cancel football in 2020.
There's a lot of different factors that led us to the decision. Most importantly was the safety and welfare of our student athletes.
The school's athletic director citing the extensive delays in testing results and student athletes' inability to properly train, calling it an unacceptable level of risk.
Ultimately, campus leadership, the board of trustees, and our student athletes and coaches were all on the same page.
Smaller schools are also scaling back. Leadership from NCAA Division II and III canceled fall championships. The D2 President's Council says it's simply not feasible to hold fall championships as planned or to postpone them to the spring while prioritizing the health and well-being of student athletes. In the Big Ten, home to powerhouse programs like Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, players have come together using the hashtag Big Ten United with a list of demands in the Players Tribune. They criticize the NCAA's plan allowing schools and conferences to devise health protocols and say they are deeply disappointed with the lack of leadership demonstrated by the NCAA with respect to player safety. This just days after players in the Pac-12 threatened to opt out of the season. At Colorado State University, officials are now investigating accusations against its football team's coaching staff, alleging that coaches have told players not to report COVID symptoms, threatened retaliation, and interfered with attempts at contact tracing to keep at-risk players in practice. As many big decisions lie ahead, NCAA President Mark Emmert says in part, "We need to make sure we provide a safe environment for college athletes," adding, "A decision based on the realities in each division will provide clarity for conferences and campuses as they determine how to safely begin the academic year and the return to sports."
We've taken a lot of hits this year, but college football, ow, that one hurts. It's going to do it for sports. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here's a live look for you, courtesy of our 111 Walter Clark Cam. Traffic moving wonderfully today. Smoke is a constant now, going on day 7 of seeing that off on the horizon there. Very similar to what we saw when the fire first started. Friday and Saturday, we had that coming straight into the Coachella Valley, but now the flow continues to blow literally from the west to the east, has been taking most of that smoke off into the high desert. Last weekend, it was seen as far east as Phoenix. That has mellowed out a little bit, and the color of the smoke is improving as well. You notice it's got a little bit more white to it and less of that dark color that it had going into the weekend. Take a look at the big picture. Not a whole lot going on. The tropics are finally quiet. There is some nonstop rain making its way across the Florida Peninsula and up along the East Coast, where they are still cleaning up after Isaias brought a lot of heavy rain and wind to that region. Meanwhile, across the West, it's about what we're not seeing. Not seeing any monsoonal flow. It exists. It's just staying in mainland Mexico and not even coming up into Arizona. Some of that's spilling slightly into New Mexico and across the Texas Panhandle. Meanwhile, we continue to stay warm and dry, but the influence of that trough continues to keep us cool and breezy. It'll do that again overnight, and it will continue to push more patchy fog and low cloud cover into the Inland Empire. Again, not great news if you're driving tomorrow. You will encounter some of that along Highway 60 and the 215 corridor near Paris and Menifee. Most of I-10 will be fine until you get up to about San Bernardino there, but it keeps that air parcel right at the base of the mountains in moist condition. That's exactly what we want to see for this condition. Here's what we're looking at as far as temperatures go. 102 is what we achieved today. Quick math telling you that was 5 degrees below average. 107 is the 30-year norm for this time of year, and 3 degrees below average in the overnight. 75 is where we bottomed out. I think it'll be even cooler overnight tomorrow. Surface weather analysis shows us taking that pattern into the weekend. Winds will pick up tomorrow afternoon, about 20-25 miles an hour. Not bad at all. Very typical for this time of year, and relative humidity will stay in check as well. Not too hot, not too dry. 100 currently in Palm Springs, 70s along the coast there. 89 is your number in Desert Hot Springs, 94 in Smoky out towards 29 Palms. 66 in Big Bear already. They could hit some 30s and 40s overnight. We cool very efficiently tonight. 68 is a little bit optimistic for Palm Springs, but some folks in Desert Hot Springs and Mecca will experience that. Temperatures still wonderfully below average on Friday, and we will warm slightly as we go into the weekend. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows us going over that 110 mark starting on Sunday, but the overnights stay in the 70s.
Hello, movie buffs. 2 new documentaries for you. So let's begin with 1,000 Cuts.
Mr. President, is it important that people be afraid of you? Fear.
Yes. Opening in select theaters and virtual cinemas this weekend is this thought-provoking look at press freedom in the Philippines, embodied by the embattled Rappler's CEO, Maria Ressa.
I'm Maria Ressa.
On the other side of the spectrum is President Rodrigo Duterte, hell-bent on punishing those criticizing him.
Started with the drug war.
Do not do drugs.
If power doesn't want a story told, they go after the independent press.
From award-winning director Ramona S. Diaz, who gave us Imelda and the Journey documentary Don't Stop Believin', this character-driven masterpiece is a call for action for everyone, not just the Philippines.
They test the tactics of how to manipulate America in our country.
1,000 Cuts is a sharp-as-knife documentary that will pierce through your heart. So, I mean it when I say,
watch 1,000 Cuts, one of my favorite, if not the most important movie you'll see this year.
We will not duck. We will not hide. We will hold the line.
And for that, 1,000 Cuts gets the perfect 4 out of 4. Hooray for press freedom kisses. And coming to Apple TV Plus next weekend is Boys State.
I would like very much to win. I love it, boys. I love it. Where you from?
The film documents 1,000 teenage boys from Texas as they learn democracy in a week-long summer leadership and citizenship program. The documentary narrows its focus to 4 leads, namely Ben Feinstein as the Federalist Party chair, Rene Otero as Ben's opponent, the Nationalist Party chair. There's Robert McDougall, who's running for governor of the Nationalist Party, and his exact opposite in beliefs, my favorite, Steve Garza, also running for governor of the Nationalist Party.
They come from different political points of view.
From Jesse Moss and Amanda McBain, the film captures documentary gold with many unscripted moments among the boys as they squirm and backstab their way to the top office. Yep, just like real life.
I want to tell you guys that we can learn a lot from you.
An eye-opening look at democracy, Boys State is as nail-biting and exciting as any election season, and is a glimmer of hope for our jaded and divided nation.
That's politics, I think. That's politics.
And for that, Boy State also gets the perfect 4 out of 4. Stream on August 14. Kisses. I'm Manny the Movie Guy, strongly recommending these 2 great documentaries.
A series of cases of missing people, 6 to be exact. Roy Prufogel, Lydia Abrams, Rosario Garcia, Melissa Lane, Vanessa Vlasic, and Jade Keemer, all disappearing over a span of about 5 months, all from the same general area. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department says none of them are connected. The cases are based in the mountain communities above the Coachella Valley, Idlewild, Mountain Center, Pine Cove, and Gardner Valley. We spoke with the mother of Jade Keemer, who hasn't seen her since July 22nd.
Absolutely, it's out of character. She surely would have contacted me by now. I would give my life for her.
The Riverside County Sheriff's Department urges anyone with information to contact their department or any local law enforcement agency. The apple fire burning in the San Bernardino National Forest has so far narrowly avoided heavily populated areas, but people living in Banning Heights are not out of the woods just yet. The fire damaged their water equipment, wiping out the water supply for thousands of people. They're now relying on water from Banning, but that comes at a cost.
This is the story of one local woman who decided she needed to help our community during this pandemic. Lisa Weaver owns Dickey's Barbecue in Rancho Mirage. Her business has been severely impacted, as have so many others. But despite the hardship she's facing, she's still gathering supplies and volunteers to help those in need, even traveling across the border. It's become her silver lining.
You are stepping up in such an incredible way.
So far, we've donated over 3,000, well, I know exactly how many, 3,083 meals, and that's to first responders, CHP, sheriffs, grocery stores, post office, and that has been really gratifying. What I'm doing right now, because I've run out of donations, is I am doing 20% back on all orders, catering orders. We cater from 10 to 1,000, and we do 20% back to feed that group of people. We try to give enough for a family of 4 of rice, beans, oil, masa, sugar to last 2 weeks. And the couple that I'm with, that's really cool. They actually grew up and their parents were farm workers, and one of them now is in computers, and the other one's a teacher. And we literally go door to door and hand them out. We were out there in 116-degree weather. I had a new volunteer that went out and bought a ton of diapers and feminine hygiene items. So we're going to keep doing that. I plan on to keep doing this even when COVID is over, because these people need help. And they are all so happy to see us.
You're not just staying in our valley, you're actually crossing the border and going over into Mexico too.
We've taken a lot of things down there also. You know, it makes a big difference, and they have no help down there. And especially for here, I have a general manager who has her family members that are living down there and that have COVID. So, you know, I want to try to do whatever we can. I feel like as long as I can keep the doors open, keep the employees and help the community, it's just been an amazing experience for me. And it is a silver lining during this horrible time of COVID.
Lisa welcomes all and any donations. They can be dropped off at Dickey's Barbecue in Rancho Mirage. Another great example of our caring community. For NBC Cares Silver Linings, I'm Sandy Newton.
Brighter Side of the News is brought to you by Holland RV, located off the I-10 at Washington.
There were 24 turtles released in Indonesia. I'm laughing because the script for this story has to do with Las Vegas, but yet they're showing me video of turtles. So here we go, these turtles making their way to the ocean. Apparently these turtles were rescued. They were going to be poached, but instead they swim free. Just keep swimming. All right, that's how I feel at the end of the show. Just keep swimming after that. That was too funny. I was like, this is not Las Vegas, I don't think. Have a great night. We'll see you at 11. Yeah, we'll be here.